Tai ao whiwhiu ana te rere o te hauorona tupuna. Toi tū te tangata, toi tū te whenua. Paupaua te oranga. Mai Parininihi kei raro ki Waitotara kei runga. Ki tō tātai nei tupuna maunga o Taranaki te nākoe. Ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa. Ko Waio, 25 years ago, I was lost. I was 5, sitting around the kitchen table with my parents, and my mother goes to me, "You're Māori?" And I burst into tears. And Mum goes, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I don't want to be like those other kids, because they get picked on by the teacher." When I was in my teens, my uncle said, "Haramai tama, e noho. Sit next to me and you can tautoko our waiata to bring the kauemati of your auntie home." When I was 24, a year before I buried my grandfather, I was sitting with him and he spoke in Māori. My parents had never heard him kōrero Māori. It wasn't until his later years, his Alzheimer's years, that he reverted back to his earlier time. So up to that point, I was lost. If you were to ask ko waio and ai ko jau Hanita tuku ingoa, no Ngāti Kahungunu Rangitāne, Ngāti Kuia Atiawa, Ngāti Koata, he tino honore ki te kōrero Māori, ki te tū ki te mihi ki a koutou katoa. So I was going to Te Puaho, and I feel like a little bit of imposter syndrome right now when I looked at the lineup of speakers and went, "They're all my idols. Why did you put me in as part of the kōrero?" And he says, "Because there'll be some gems within your journey to share." And so to start my kōrero, I just want to cast back when I was a 24-year-old. And I would sit there going, I know what governance is. I'm ready to share, just like what Missy said. I've got my degree. I'm an accountant. Let's take over the world. And I thought, and you think about, what is governance? For me back then, it was about setting strategy, hiring your key management leader, receiving reports, making sure they're all tika and puno, and making sure that you talk to the whānau and make sure that they're happy with the mahi that you're doing. Seemed all pretty sweet. But what I didn't get told that I've learnt over the last 25 years is making decisions with limited, complex, unknown, and polar opposite opinions and data, navigating human emotion and dynamics, making a choice from multiple priorities, obligations and expectations without disappointing anyone, knowing that you could go to jail if you get it wrong, but actually more importantly, getting a patu from your auntie or uncle for not getting it right. So my experience of governance so far is it's not an easy road and it's not for the faint-hearted. So governance in my opinion is a learning journey. It is not necessarily, though, always a safe space. You come equipped with your skills, with your lived experiences, but you need to come prepared to learn. And you actually need to come prepared to not only just learn yourself, but to actually take on the role of teacher, because you have things that you can share with others. So for me, governance is a continuous improvement cycle. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my lived experiences, both my past, present, and future. I was appointed as a trustee to a national Māori health provider at the age of 24. Some of those lessons from way back in that time, and there were 5 key, if I reflect back now. The first one is, in my view, governance is about planning for the future. Yes, you have to do various ticks and balances for today and yesterday, but it is thinking about what is coming down the road, how are we preparing ourselves for potentially an unknown world. And I always like the subtle reminders, sitting at a flash hui, and one of the aunties looks over to me and goes, "Joe, thank you for my dividend last year. But next year, could you double it?" Nice subtle reminder about thinking ahead. We live in a world of VUCA. So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I've experienced that definitely for the last 25 years, and I don't see that changing. So actually, it's about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. How have I done that? There's 3 things that I've instilled in my life. And the first, but before I talk about them, there's a quote that was given to me many moons ago by a well-known CEO at the time, who said, "Joe, if I'm going to share something with you, it's hope is not a strategy." So kia ora Bentham. And that's really resonated with me over the last 10, 15 years. And what I've taken away from that is discipline, in particular around your decision-making process, is really key. Not all the decisions that we make are going to be successful. But for me, it's having comfort in what was the process, how did we get to this decision? Making sure it's not random, making sure it's not subjective, that there was some deliberate path that you chose, which in my view creates a safe space for me. The second thing was always surround yourself with wiser heads. Making sure that you have that formal and informal network of those that you can go to in confidence. They are not there to give you the solution. What they're there to do is to test, to challenge your due diligence and thought process, to highlight your blind spots, because we all have them. But actually, one of the biggest things is actually to give you reassurance that what you are thinking and what you are feeling is okay. And the last thing for me was about self-reflection. Just creating that space to contemplate. We get put in situations where you've got to make a decision, sometimes in a short amount of time. But I have no qualm in pushing back and actually going, this doesn't feel right in my puku, and we've heard that today. And actually, could we just take a break and have a cup of tea, have a kai, or can we sleep on it? Just so I can reconcile why I am feeling the way I am and why I'm hesitant in finalising that decision. So self-reflection's a big thing for me, post-board meetings, post-important hui. If I think about the lessons of the last 5 years and today, what has COVID taught us? For me personally, it just amplified VUCA, and it tested my personal resilience. Went from monthly, bi-monthly board hui to meeting every week. Went from thinking about cash flow, financial planning, operational planning on a normal cycle to pretty much needing to look at it on a daily basis. Going from ad hoc environmental scanning, seeing what's happening in the world, to pretty much being plugged in all the time. Problem solving around the table to managing virtual chaos. The ability to actually have deep and meaningful kōrero, because every so often you would have to go, you're on mute. Feeling the wairua of the moment to trying to actually figure out how are people, how are you? And pausing for a moment, focusing on strategy to actually focusing on survival and sustainability. So the mode of operation became all about being adaptive and agile at the moment. So what did this experience reinforce for me? And it reinforced 4 things. The importance of team, the importance of stakeholders, your suppliers, your board, your kaimahi, your whānau. I see our organisations as a set of tasks, activities and objects, but it's not until you add the people that the magic is made. It reinforced the importance as a governor, as a leader, of humility and empathy to bring individuals together to function as a collective for collective impact. It brought to the forefront the clarity of self-purpose and how you believe you will make the greatest impact, adding value. Channeling all of that passion, all of that drive, all of that energy to create a force field of resilience around you during all of that pressure. And I think what makes our roles in Māori organisations and Māori governance roles so different from any other job is that commitment beyond self, the importance of servitude. The other key thing that stood out for me was finding balance with each decision that you have to make as a board member. So I am an optimist pragmatist, that's the way I describe myself. I have great hope for our future, but I'm real that it's going to take lots of really hard mahi and really hard decisions. I'm a true believer in thinking and planning long term, but we need to build momentum now because good things take time to be seen. So it's imperative, your process needs to be iterative as part of that, but within some really clear defined parameters. Ultimately, because I am an accountant, we do need to manage risk. Fundamental as a governor, you need to make and own decisions. You cannot delegate the decisions that you need to make. So, and in pretty much every scenario, you will need to make decisions that require trade-offs and compromise, which is really hard when your whānau are looking to you. But I think part of that, I've always asked, what are our bottom lines? What things will we never compromise on? So that's one of the questions I like to ask around a board table. So I have clarity when we do have to make those trade-offs, that we're not compromising who we are and our values. And I find it important to actually understand how a specific decision fits within the whole kaupapa that we are trying to achieve. You know, making sure that we actually understand the whole. What are we trying to achieve? What are the outcomes? And how does this fit into that? And a good example in my day-to-day mahi at PKW is around the work that we did with Te Ara Pūtanga, trying to give us clarity, both at a governance level, but more importantly at an operational level, on where we're going and when we make choices, how those choices impact on that framework. Other thing is to build your kete of tools, and this is probably the most important comment that I'd like to share today. For me, it's about patient planning. So we're here talking about governance, but actually I want as many of our aspiring people to be really, really good managers. Focus on being a manager and a leader in that space first before you jump into the governance realm. And the reason I say that was some advice I was given many years ago from Hinarangi Raumati. And the reason she said to me, I want you to stay in that lane, is because when you enter the governance realm, you will have walked in the shoes of those that you're about to lead and to mentor. You'll have all those scars, you'll have all of those bruises, and you'll be a more effective governor in giving them solutions or giving them insight in how to address the challenges that we have. So, taiho whānau, don't jump into the governance space yet. We need plenty of you in senior leadership, operational leadership. And the last thing is to look after self. And if I look across, the Māori governance realm, we all look pretty tired. Especially with the impact of COVID. So again, I aspire for excellence. Those who know me well know I'm a perfectionist, and I'm always pushing myself, pushing my team, pushing our organisations. And it's great to have great skills, but you need to be mentally and physically strong as well. So we need to look after ourselves as governors if we are to lead by example. So, everyone look after yourself after this week. And if I think about what's coming down the pipeline, what are the future lessons that I think we will learn? So corporate Aotearoa is definitely changing. On a weekly basis, talking to many of my colleagues, we're getting asked by non-Māori organisations, they are looking for guidance, they're looking for advice on how to embrace Te Ao Māori. Really to build purpose, resilience, and ultimately relevance of the organisations for the future. So why are they looking to us? And I sum it up in two ways. The confidence in a hau mātou koutou tātou. I believe our conviction as a people comes from being part of a legacy passed from generation to generation. A commitment to look after each other, mō aki tonu atu. This gives us a source of strength. It's a foundation. It's founded in our sense of belonging. Many other organisations don't have that. Many other people don't have that. I think it's also our style of leadership, being purpose-driven. Our focus on outcomes, making sure that they are balanced. In the accounting speak, making sure we've got an awesome triple bottom line. Making sure, looking at our time horizon, being intergenerational. Focus on equity, collective effort, benefit, and impact. And our unique ability to storytell. Thinking and showing a holistic, interconnected link between people, planet, and profit. And that's one of the projects that Ātihau talked about that I'm involved in, is how do we get Aotearoa, the reporting entities of our nation, to start to think like that and report in the way in which we do. So I started with, I am lost, and I'm really proud to say that, yep, I feel found, but as I said, I'm still on a learning journey, really privileged with the mahi that I do, the boards that I sit on, and the work that I get to do, noting I am a bean counter. But so I really just want to close out by saying thank you for the opportunity to share some of my governance journey, observations, learning, and some random thoughts as we all step out into the unknown of what the future may hold in store for us. Nō reira, mā te atua tātou, manaaki tiaki, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou.